AITA for refusing to stop seeing my daughter over her sister. I, 56F, and my husband, Kurt, 59M, have 2 daughters, Ruth, 32, and June 30th. 8 years ago, Ruth split up with her college boyfriend, Adam, 32. They'd been together since she was 21sts, and it was as serious as a college relationship could be. About 5 years ago, June announced that she reconnected with Adam at some alumni get-together. They'd all gone to the same university, and that they were now dating. Of course, Kurt and I were shocked she would do this despite her sister's history with him. But she insisted that they were in love, and she can't help that. And that Ruth and Adam hadn't been together in years, so she hasn't done anything wrong. Ruth, understandably, was enraged over it. She said she was done with June and would never see her again. This broke me. They were so close growing up, and I prayed every day they'd reconcile. But I accepted they're adults who can make their own choices, and we have no say. Kurt and I were also very disappointed with June, and told her off many times. But after she proved that there was never any cheating involved, while Ruth and Adam were together, things between us settled down. Out of respect for Ruth's feelings, we never brought the girls together again. Ruth and June visit us separately, and still aren't on speaking terms after 5 years, but we maintained our relationships. Now, June and Adam are married. Ruth has also moved on with a lovely boy. Coincidentally, both girls are expecting their first child. Ruth's due date is a little earlier. I can't put into words how excited we are to be grandparents and adore both these children. I've been supportive and as involved with both our daughters' pregnancies as they want. However, last week, Ruth drops a bomb on us. She said that if we ever see June again, or her baby, she won't allow us in her child's life. This shattered me. It's kept me up every night. The thought of either of my grandchildren being deprived of loving grandparents is agonizing. I know Ruth was deeply hurt by June's actions, but I don't know if we should be punished just for not cutting our kid off. How can any parent even consider disowning a child? We begged her to reconsider and said our love for them both isn't conditional and we can't just stop loving one, but she's adamant. I don't want to accept Ruth's terms, as it seems like no matter what we decide, we're going to lose a daughter and grandchild. So I'd rather it not happen, because we outright chose it. But I also don't want Ruth to believe we'd just drop her in favor of June, because again, the thought crushes me. Wibte, if I don't comply with Ruth's ultimatum. Why did Ruth and Adam split up? Ruth left Adam because it just wasn't working. He was immature and said and did things that irritated her. Mostly lots of minor things adding up. She said there was never any abuse nor cheating, but it was the right decision for herself. He was a nice enough boy, but he definitely had some growing up to do at the time. I did feel very badly for Ruth, because she had invested a good few years into the relationship for someone so young, but agreed it was the right decision. Did we ever support Ruth? Ruth stayed with us for a few months when it first happened. Not just because of this, there were other reasons. And we were there for her and comforted her the whole time. Because she was so angry, we had asked June to not visit until she left. We still talked to her and met a couple of times in public places. We made it known that this hurt her sister, and we were disappointed she didn't think of this. June understood and agreed with us supporting Ruth. She expressed sadness over losing her sister, but we clearly told her it was Ruth's decision to cut her off. Whether one thinks June did nothing wrong or not, it's untrue to say there were never any consequences for this. She's sad to this day that she's lost her sister and knows she has to accept and live with it. Did June ever apologize to Ruth? Both girls have confirmed that June reached out a few times over the years to apologize. No one put her up to it. Ruth didn't forgive her, and she's well within her rights not to. We understand no one can or should make her accept the apology. Why don't we just cut off Adam? He's June's husband and the father of our second grandchild. They're a package deal now. Once we cut him off, we risk losing June and our grandchild anyway, which is the same as what I'm trying to prevent with Ruth. Some comments say that in letting June stay in our lives after this, I already chose her and asked why I didn't cut her off from the start. I'm baffled that anyone would suggest I could just disown a child so easily, like she was never ours. Not disowning June doesn't mean I chose to be her mother over Ruth's. I never abandoned Ruth and never will. Ruth has thanked us for our support in the past. She said she was fine with how we'd arranged things for the last 5 years. As long as she never had to see June, She was happy seeing us, and everything was normal between us. It's only now that she wants us to disown June. Some say she should have cut us off years ago for still loving June. She said many times her goal isn't to cut us off. She loves us and wants us to be involved with her child, but that she can't stand June or her baby getting the same love and care from us because she thinks she doesn't deserve it. I want to add that if Adam had ever abused or cheated on Ruth, we certainly would have gone NC or at least LC with them. But that's not what happened. And both girls used to repeatedly tell us that what happened between them had nothing to do with us. So, yes, I did keep my relationship with both daughters. I don't regret it because, as heartbreaking as this is, willingly cutting off either of them, outside of the circumstances I mentioned, is unfathomable to me or their father. Update 1. We followed the advice and told Ruth that if she decided to go NC, we would comply, but we could never willingly cut off either of them. We again begged her to reconsider and reiterated that we were willing to go do family therapy, that we would do all we could to keep her and June apart, anything to make it work. She said she still wasn't happy, June, and her baby would stay in our lives, but she would think about it. Kurt and I also looked into opening an account for Ruth's child, but didn't go through with it yet in hopes that things could turn around. Days went by. We didn't hear back from Ruth. It was agony. Then we get a call from June. She'd gotten wind of what was happening. She drove to Ruth's herself. No one put her up to this. She was just determined. She was prepared for Ruth to kick her out anyway. Once she was there, she apologized again and begged her not to do this. She said she could accept Ruth wanting nothing to do with her, but not to punish us because of it, especially since they both knew that cutting us off would cost her child loving grandparents. Shockingly, Ruth didn't kick her out. She let her in, and they both had a long, tearful argument fight. They even hugged a few times. I'm foggy on details, but I suspect pregnancy hormones played a huge role here. I can't tell you how panicked I was hearing this story, because it could have been so risky for them both. They haven't exactly made up, and Ruth didn't forgive June, but she admitted to her that her husband, Owen, has actually been trying to convince her to go to couples counseling and individual therapy as well. Apparently, since Ruth's pregnancy, some troubling qualities that he was able to manage previously were exacerbated. She was becoming controlling and paranoid, and he was pleading with her to get help so they could be in a good place once the baby was born. June's visit was the final straw, and Ruth broke down and agreed. Ruth called us later. She corroborated June's story and accepted our therapy offer. She still has one condition. She wants Owen there if June has to attend any sessions, and she doesn't want Adam present at all. We all agreed. The first session is in a few days. I can barely keep it together that I'll see both my babies in the same room for the first time in forever. It's been so stressful, but I can finally see womb 4 light. I haven't lost my daughters. Kurt and I are going to put everything into keeping our family together. I'm not going to be naive and assume everything will be fine now, but I'm hopeful.